Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. I am so excited for today's guest. He is stand-up comedian Matty Rosenfeld. And I gotta tell you, this guy is one of the funniest people I have ever heard in my life. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. We shall get to Matty in just a second, but first, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please follow and subscribe and rate and review and all that good stuff. And you'll be notified every time we post a new episode. So, Matty Rosenfeld was born in Tel Aviv, Israel, and at the age of 7, emigrated with his family to the United States, and was raised on Long Island, Woodmere, in fact. After graduating from Boston University, he worked as an investment banker until he fell in love with stand-up comedy during his first open mic performance. He's a regular at the New York and Los Angeles comedy clubs, and headlines around the country and across the globe. His upcoming Pause for Laughter tour includes stops in Zurich, London, Chicago, St. Paul, Montreal, and Denver, before finally concluding at the iconic Beacon Theater in New York City. His debut special, Know Your Audience, is available on YouTube. Matty, welcome into the back room.
Thank you. I haven't heard that since the late 90s. I haven't heard that since the late.
Oh, I'm sure there's so many stories there we can get into.
Oh my!
But this is a children's podcast, Matty, so we're not going to do that.
Okay. It's great to be here.
So you are a really funny guy. I got to say.
Thank you.
I watched your Know Your Audience YouTube show. I think I laughed out loud the entire time. And I'm a comedy snob. I did some stand-up back in the day. I don't laugh easy. And you were one of the funniest. I was telling my co-producer, Jen. Say hi, Jen.
Hi.
Fellow Jew. Two Jews.
Hi.
Two Jews here.
Two Jews.
I was telling her that I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. In fact, to me, it was almost like on a par with Pryor's first concert film.
Oh, wow. By the way, you're the second guy that gave me that huge compliment. I don't know if you saw, and I do not take it lightly. There's an article about me in Variety, and the article was, it said that it was Robin Williams, Richard Pryor laughter.
Yes.
Is what they saw. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Richard Pryor fan. And there's something about the energy. If you remember that Pryor film, his energy was just electric. And that's what your show was to me. It was electric. And we're going to get into all that. But I want to start off, I want to go back to little Matty, little single-digit Matty. What were you like as a kid? By the way, I read you grew up in Woodmere. Is that true?
Woodmere, Long Island, yeah. Hewlett, the 5 towns.
Far Rockaway in the house.
So both of us, you have no idea what it looks like now. It looks like
Tel Aviv.
The towns from Fiddler on the Roof. It looks like Anatevka. There's a yeshiva and are you Jewish?
I am Jewish. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been back there. And that started kind of like in the 80s and early 90s, that wave of Orthodox and Hasidic came.
I left I graduated college. It was 88 and went to BU. I never came back. I never went back. I wasn't like my buddies were all back, and it was never that. But that's when it began. Like the synagogues began to it's like a shtetl. It's like a little village, but huge synagogues that just popped up everywhere, and it became a destination for people who were making it in like Brooklyn and like places where Orthodox Jews were. They made some money. Hey, let's have a backyard. Let's have a parking spot that dedicated to ourselves, a pool, and that's when it began to blow up. And now it's on other level. Like the really, really, really rich are buying in Lawrence and in Hewlett Bay Park and all those places. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Far Rockaway went through a same kind of transition too. Like right over the Nassau border, like near the bridge. That part of Far Rockaway, around the same time became very, very, very Orthodox.
But even more Orthodox.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like the white shirt, black pants, and all of that. And they're all arming themselves.
With what?
With insane guns.
Really?
Not guns, rifles. And it is a huge spike in the Jewish community where they're buying guns. I was with my friend, and yeah, listen, you're from there, so you understand. You're in a Jewish neighborhood, right? If somebody wants to do an anti-Semitic attack, they just know any house here with a big mezuzah and shalom on the door. That's your target. So they're all buying these insane. Like my buddy was buying this crazy story. I was on Madison Avenue next to Hermes. You know, in Manhattan.
Sure.
Hermes, Manhattan. You know, all these incredible stores, and I see my friend's son tells me that his dad's upstairs buying a gun. I go, what? Anyway, we get to the store. It's called Beretta. It's the #1 gun store in the world, and it's upstairs. And he's buying this, like the Hermes of shotguns. And I go to him, like, what are you doing? Like, you have to make sure we're armed and this and that. And the guy comes over, this guy, this non-Jewish guy comes over to him to show him how to work the gun. And he's talking like the clicker and the bar, you get the base, the canal, and this. And I go, are you listening? He says to me, my buddy says to me, he says to me, it's all on YouTube, dude. On YouTube, you're going to work with a gun. You're going to blow your wife's kitchen out of the... Are you crazy? But they're all getting licenses, and they're all getting permits, and they're all getting their arms license. Yeah.
Pretty soon, we'll be hearing stories like, how like black on black crime in Chicago. We'll be hearing about the Jew on Jew crime in the 5 towns.
No, but they're waiting for like the Nazis to come there. It's insane.
Well, they're not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy.
They're not crazy. They're in a Jewish neighborhood. Every house, has Jew in it. Yeah. Wow, we're spending a lot of time not promoting my comedy special, Know Your Audience.
Relax. We're going to get there. I'm sure you're excited. You're going to be really excited to know my first wife was from Woodmere, Central Avenue, over all those doctors' row houses. And I spent half my life in the 5 towns. I used to work in Inwood and Cedarhurst and
doing what?
You name it. I was a busboy. I was a school camp counselor in Woodmere. I was a school bus driver.
People have to understand that Cedarhurst is a town where when I was growing up, I don't know how old you are, when I was growing up there, you would open Vogue magazine and it would say like, there'd be a Valentino ad, and then it would say in the bottom, Paris, Milan, Rome, Cedarhurst. And now it is like Zamek's challah by 3 for $17. Zamek's, how good is Zamek's challah?
The best. And the kosher pizza place is still on Central Avenue, is it not?
Yeah, Sabra.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember when that was like an outpost back in the 70s, and now it's probably like one of 1,000 kosher restaurants there.
It's one of 1,000. Every corner there's these meat restaurants, steak restaurants, expensive, lower, and they all serve sushi. I don't know what it is. Every kosher restaurant has sushi. I don't know what happened when every Jewish event began. So I met my husband 9 years ago. And I go to Jewish events, and I've taken him, and now he's my manager and everything. But like, whenever we went to any Jewish event, no matter how Orthodox, there was sushi. And he goes, "When did sushi become?" And no one knows.
That's a good question.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes, of course.
Right? Every bar mitzvah sushi.
I think it's like a status thing, like you've arrived if you have sushi at your event.
Okay, so my theory is different. I think my theory is Jews are always trying to think about what can I eat and not gain weight. So in their head, it's protein and rice, and they got brown rice and options. So they're like, okay, let's eat half of this table full of sushi. And I know what else. But let's drink half a bottle of salt with it. That salt.
I think I have a third reason, and this I'm going to speak personally as a Jew with the weak stomach. If like you're traveling to a wedding and then you got a long ride home, sushi's like a safe bet, like you're not going to have to stop over on the side of the Taconic because you got too much sushi in you.
No, the Taconic. I was just on that this weekend. My friend Jake Cohen, he's a chef. He's a New York Times best-selling chef. Jay Cohen bought a house up in Hudson, right by the town before Hudson.
Ankrum?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a huge town, so you won't find his house, but like he's up there. And by the way, he's like, "Oh, do you know how many gays are here? Do you know how many gays have bought houses here?" I'm like, "Yeah, that happened. That trend was like 10 years ago."
Yeah, Hudson.
But we were up in the Taconic. The Taconic. It's those of you who don't know what the Taconic is. Okay, so when you leave Manhattan to go upstate, and you get to anywhere in the Hudson area, Germantown, all that. So you just getting out of Manhattan it's torture. It's three. Your Waze says it's a 3-hour drive, but 2.5 hours of it is leaving the city, and then you head to Taconic, and it's one straight shot up. It's so amazing.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about the Taconic, which I always love, I don't know who designed it, but it's 2 lanes, and neither lane is wider than a car.
Correct.
And there's rocks on the side. So it is the most terrifying drive. And when it rains and snows, it's crazy. All right, tell me about your childhood in Woodmere. What were you like as a kid? Were you funny? Were you the class clown? Were your parents funny? Was there comedy in your house?
Wasn't the class clown. Was humorous, but I was a horrible. Okay, let's do this right. We moved to the 5 towns from Israel when I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I was 7, and we had like a little stint, half a year in Queens while we bought the house in the 5 towns in Woodmere. And so in the house, when you were in our house, you were in Israel. Everything was Hebrew. My parents were Hebrew. When the grandparents were there, it was in Yiddish. So the house was Israel, and all my parents' friends were Israeli. And anybody we dealt with, and uncles and aunts, was all Hebrew and Israeli. And then you have the 5 towns, which those of you who don't know, it's an area of New York where people speak in like their own language. There's like this accent that like anytime a word ends with an ER, they drop the ER and they put an A. So I just got out of the shower, and I'm going to dry my hair with a blower. Now, if the word actually ends with an A, they bring back the ER. Melissa and I had an idea. We're going to have a tuna fish sandwich, washing it down with seltzer, a soda, water. So now, in the house, I'm speaking Hebrew and Yiddish. And in town, I'm learning how to talk like a Long Islander. And that's where my accent kind of came from. And so that's the background of that. And we lived there, and my parents like right away figured out there is no need to send him to a Hebrew Jewish school because Hewlett High School was 99.999% Jewish, except for 4 Irish kids that came from Gibson. When's the last time you heard the word Gibson?
Probably in the 70s.
Exactly. So I was not the class clown because I was a horrible student. So I had to just you can't be the class clown and come home with like awful grades. Class clowns are usually guys who can also smash the grades. So I was just, let's get through this. I need to just cheat and get through whatever we got to do. And then, but I will say my last year of high school, this woman came in to be the drama coach, and they do the school show. And she found out about me, and I don't know what it was, and she asked me to audition for Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof, the lead role of Tevye, right? Which was a role written for me directly. And I went in and I did it. Mm-hmm. And that was my first time kind of like really on stage, and it felt amazing. And then never did it again, went to college, came back, got a job in investment banking, and then used to imitate the secretaries. And my friend said, you should try this on stage. And then I did my first open mic night doing my over-the-top secretaries, and that's when the buck came. Yeah.
And then what was the time frame between when you got hooked at that first gig and when you quit financing?
Oh, so my first time doing stand-up was probably in 1993. And then I was just doing like, it was over the top.
What were the clubs where you performed back then, like open mics and bringer shows?
I was at, the first place was Stand Up New York, which is on 78 Broadway, the Comic Strip. And then there were a few other little clubs in the
New York
city.
Comedy Club?
You're right. But no, this is way before that.
No. New York Comedy Club was, because I was doing comedy in the 90s, and I did there a lot.
Right, Al's room.
Al, right,
yes.
Big Al.
Yes. Zechariah Levracha, he passed away.
And Chris, who worked with him, ended up opening that club on 23rd Street, right?
Correct. For Chris Massili, who wrote of Gotham.
Right.
So now, but I was doing those clubs and just getting up wherever I could. And then in April '94, I was at the Comedy Cellar and I auditioned for Esty and she passed me. And that's like kind of like the benchmark where I say I began in comedy. So as soon as I was passed there, so April '94. But to answer your question, I was in finance the entire time. I was in finance the entire time. I was doing sets in the city in the 90s in a suit. I'd come from the bank right to the club. And so I quit in '99. So it was 5 years I worked both jobs. And I mean worked both jobs. I was doing gigs where I would be on the road. As soon as like Friday came, I'd fly right to wherever I have to go to and do all kinds of stuff. And the synagogue gigs became, and the Catskills. I was doing Catskills shows. There was the tail end of the Catskills, and I caught it. Yeah.
And so what was the breaking point where you were like, you know what? I don't need that day job anymore.
So funny. So I was trying to get out of banking for a while. I was making money and I knew I wasn't anything was gonna happen further until I quit the job. So I kind of always gave them like, hey, I think it's time for me to leave. And they're like, no. We got this other position for you. Stay here and do the house accounts. You'll work with the house. I don't want to get like all in the finance world. People know what that means. And I was like, okay. And we'll give you can take more. You can leave earlier on this and do that and do whatever you to do to the event. Because I was really good. They loved me at the office, even though I was horrible at finance. But I was a good vibe in the office. What finally broke was I really went into quit because I was going to go on this 8-day thing to open for Neil Sedaka. And I really wanted to do it. I really, really wanted to do it. And the guy that was the managing director of the office said to me, this is amazing because I was told I have to lay off 8 people. So he laid me off instead of firing me. And I got this insane package, this Cobra, and I had insurance for a year. It was literally God saying, here you go do it, I put you here to do. 5 years is the answer. I was doing both for 5 years, yeah.
And back in those days, who were your comedy inspirations? Like, who did you really love?
So I always say Alan King. I don't know if you've ever seen Alan King.
Sure, of course.
The youngins watching and listening to this, Google Alan King and watch his comedy special at the Carnegie Hall. So back when I began doing comedy, there was no YouTube, there was none of that stuff. There was no Facebook, anything. So I used to, when I caught a glimpse of his comedy, I then went to the Museum of Television and Film, which is on 52nd Street, and I binged watched all of his stuff. And I found my cadence from him. His comedy cadence, what you saw in that special, is if you take a minute, whatever.
No, I know Alan King real well. Yeah. I can see that.
You see, it's the same type of cadence. I remember whenever I had ideas for material, and I would write the premises out, and I would go and watch him again. You have to check into the museum, give them your card, and they set you up with the booth, and they put all the things you wanted to watch. It wasn't like today you can do it on YouTube in 10 minutes. It was a day. It was a full day. And so he was a great influence on me. And as I mentioned before, I caught the tail end of the Catskills,
Mm-hmm.
which means there were 4 hotels left up there that had a show every weekend, Friday, Saturday nights. And so the guys that were booking that, I was amazing for them. They paid me nothing. I drove up there, did a full show. So you have to understand, I'm a comic in New York doing 15-minute spots, or driving up wearing a tuxedo doing an hour with a band behind me. It's literally what made me, but I got to watch the end of an era of comedy. So I saw comedians like Malzy Lawrence.
I was going to say, you remind me of him.
Oh, again, thank you again.
He is one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. When Catskills on Broadway was big, I was like, who's this guy Malzy Lawrence? Nobody ever heard of him, but he was the funniest. And so talk about cadence and persona, all that stuff, you remind me of him a lot.
I watched people who were doing comedy. Do you know that expression, you can read the phone book and people,
yes.
The room is bent over laughing. So Malzy Lawrence, Freddie Roman, Stewie Stone, a million
Jackie
comics.
Mason.
Okay, but that was a beast of its own.
Mm-hmm.
That was a beast of its own. And so those were big influences. And obviously George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and they were all huge and just like inspiration, you know. But cadence-wise, Alan King.
What was Alan King's big bit that he's known for?
I don't know if he had a big bit.
Yeah.
He did that thing with the obituaries. When your wife, when the wife lives past the husband, what's it called? Survived by his wife. That was one of his biggest bits. Anybody listening to this, YouTube, Survived by His Wife. It is an insane, hysterical bit. He reads the obituaries, and you know, all these guys that like survived 3 world wars, and they did this and that, and survived by his wife. One guy at the end, finally his wife committed suicide, landed on him. Survived by his wife is incredible, but his thing that made me with him was he presented himself as a success. He was in a tuxedo. He was buying an expensive car. He was living large. He was a wife that, you know, needed jewelry. It wasn't, I'm starving, I'm this, there's no money. It was like, oh, that fits me more. And that's a big part of his thing.
Well, that was very Rat Pack-ish, that era, you know.
100%.
Yeah, and that was like, there was a very cool, there was something about Alan King that was very cool, you know. Understated cool, but I totally get the cadence thing, because he was kind of a yeller and a screamer, and the whole, like, the way he would deliver his punchlines, especially.
The yelling and screaming was done only to accentuate. It wasn't the whole time. Accentuate, and you got the laugh.
Right.
If he ever dropped an S or an F-bomb, it was so strong because the whole show didn't have it. So when you all of a sudden say the S word, it boom. It's like the whole room just blows up. And so I never, organically, I never cursed, but that was like his thing too.
So your YouTube show, Know Your Audience, for those of you out there listening and you want to laugh, I mean, if you're a Jew, you're going to identify with all of it, but you really don't need to be a Jew, because you talk a lot about the differences between Jews and non-Jews. And
I do the whole show for a non-Jew. If you watched it,
right.
The entire show, I'm explaining it to a person who wasn't Jewish.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do any spoilers, but there's some stuff that blew me out. Like your Trader Joe's stuff was just fucking crazy funny.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Because it's a fun place. I always say when I go in there, why are all these people so happy?
They're all thrilled, and now it's become like the new airline for comedians. You know, comics have to have something that the entire room knows the experience of. So obviously, flying on a plane, going through boarding, sitting down, the seatbelt, and the whole thing, everybody experiences that. So this is an easy place to find material. Trader Joe's is now, everybody goes to Trader Joe's. So now you can do anything about the products, the experience, the lines, the bags, and people understand.
Do you think they go through like a month-long training session on how to pack those fucking bags? Because sometimes I stand there and I'm like, I just want to go. Can you just put the shit in the bag? There's like a scientific method to how they're, and then like they take this stuff out and like repack it. Just put this stuff in there.
No, I think from what I understand, my husband explains these things to me. I think they get some amazing healthcare and program and discount, and so they're happy people. They're happy people, and that's it makes a fun shopping experience. And in my new special, I talk about I don't know what it is. In Florida, that what's it called, a supermarket, Publix.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Florida?
No. Yes, and I've been in Publix many times.
It's amazing. It's like a next level. Next level.
Talk a little bit about the difference between Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews.
Between Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews, those of you who don't know, the Sephardic, Ashkenazi Jews are the Jews that come from Eastern Europe, and Sephardic is literally everywhere else, like from Spain all the way into Africa and all the way even to to Iran, Iraq, and all that. Those are Sephardic Jews, and obviously the differences are very, one is European and a little more refined and a little more, which is where I'm from. My parents, my grandparents are from Poland, Russia, Romania area, and I joke a lot about the differences between the two, because we're the same religion, we're the same Jews, but we have different customs. But I always make fun of the Ashkenazi because I am. If I were to do the whole bits, which is easy, you can literally just change it around. Mm-hmm. Making fun of Sephardic, it would not be cute. It'd be racist. So that's what, and the differences are little small things, little accents and the way they eat something and the kind of food. We eat bland food. I mean, my mom's soup looks like it's water with a little hint of yellow and a carrot and like a leaf floating on top. Sephardic soup, you can literally, I think it can take paint off a wall. It's like this spicy, paint thinning. I'm not a big fan of soup, but I talk about, whenever I do make jokes, I talk about how bland our food is and how great their food is. In my real life, I prefer bland. I'm not but that's like the difference. And let me tell you, when those jokes came out, you never saw anything connect people together. Everybody that married, anybody who was Ashkenazi that married Sephardic or Sephardic that married Ashkenazi, they all wrote to us, "Oh my God, that's my uncle, that's my mother-in-law, that's my brother-in-law. It's so great, it's so funny." It was such a bonding experience in the Jewish world. Those two, there's a talk about those two differences.
Mm-hmm. Shiva, your stuff about Shiva is crazy.
I don't know. The Shiva is just when the Jews die. It's hard to explain to anybody who hasn't been to a Shiva. The family's sitting on the floor. You're coming in, the family just lost somebody, and they're sitting on the floor. They're sitting on these chairs with no legs. You sit on chairs with no legs. Now go imagine somebody who's not Jewish walking in, and you're just sitting. You see the entire family just lost their grandmother, and they're all sitting on the floor, and it's just, and the food and the conversation and the stupid questions. It's like it's so.
How did she die?
Crazy. How did she die? How did she die? Skydiving. Yeah, it's good stuff.
So you
see people's faces. I love. By the way, so when I do a show, I light the whole stage up. Those of you who perform for Jewish audiences, they want to see everything. My stage is lit like we're about to do oral surgery. I'll tell you. Do you know who Mateo Lane is?
No.
Comedian Mateo Lane. So he's this gay comedian. Like he's like family, very close to me. We're very close, and he has a whole gay audience. Wherever he goes, he packs the rooms. Any place I sell out twice, he sells out 4 shows. Any place I do 4, he does 8 shows. So we were together in Paris, and we had I had a matinee, and he had an evening show at at the same venue. So I said to him, "You're very lucky. The sound is perfection. My sound." He goes, "Wow, that's great. The lights on my stage are so bright." He performs in a fog with one Yortzeit candle lighting the entire thing. He's literally the only comedian that I say he's the only comedian that other people watch me say he looks much more blurry in person. But the stage is very lit for a Jewish audience.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the pandemic and COVID symptoms, Jews,
Yeah, I used to, when COVID came out, I'm like, when they're doing the testing and the symptoms, but you're talking to a demographics that is so, coughing and mucus, and you gotta be kidding me. This is what every Jew's had COVID for the COVID, which is called waking up. The COVID, yeah.
What's your process for writing and how you come up with stuff? Would you call yourself like a Seinfeldian observationalist? You're just walking around taking notes all day long?
Not sure what his process is. I am talking to myself all day long, and I didn't realize this till my husband pointed it out to me. So whatever premise I'm working on, I'm constantly rehearsing it and thinking where in my head, walking, driving. I drove today an hour back and forth somewhere and realized I didn't have the radio on at all. I was completely in a conversation with myself. And then if I don't have a show that night, I will, before the gym, I have a pre-roll and I take 2 hits of my pre-roll of weed. And while I'm at the gym, I just 2 hits, all I need. If I have 2 hits before the gym, I can work out for 3 hours. And then really funny things happen, and I tape them into my phone. And then when I get home, I see if it fits if it's really funny or not. And so that's kind of it's not sitting down for an hour every day to write jokes. I can't do that.
Right.
I'm dyslexic and ADHD and the entire and stutter. So my thing with it comes to me and I'm constantly rehearsing it. I will tell you, last night I didn't have a set. This is so funny. And I was alone at home. Leo went out to some event. And I called up a friend of mine that I haven't spoken to in half a year. And we were just talking. And he goes, what new material are you working on? And I literally did, on the sofa, in my phone to him, 45 minutes of material.
New stuff.
And he was listening to him, and he was just laughing, and he added stuff. And it was just so, I work on my new material in my head, and obviously the Comedy Cellar. I'm there whenever I can be. And I was there this week, and it was like, you're going from a theater of 2,000 people that are kind of on your headspace because they're Jewish, they know, they've seen you, They watch you. And thank God, we now have what I call Goyim gays in the days. Now the shows, all the Jews have let the non-Jews know, and the non-Jews who found me told all their Jewish friends, there's a show at the Beacon, go get tickets. And so we have, but when you look at the Comedy Cellar, that's just everything's there. I was there this whole week, 2 shows a night. It was so much fun, so good. You really get to see, there's no fooling around. You got to make sure that it was really. And then I watched the sets. They sent me my sets. I watched. I'm like, wow, that was horrible. Wow, that was great.
Well, you got to win them over in a way you don't have to when you're selling out a show and they're really coming to see you.
Correct.
When you're working through material, how often does it occur where you get an idea for something and it's almost like the setup and the punchline are almost there? Like you can go on a stage that night and do it because it just came to you, versus wow, I got an idea for something. Setup is kind of funny, but I need the punchline. Or you got a great punchline and it takes you a while to come up with a setup. How often does a ready-made bit come into your head?
So I have a big bit about wearing a watch. I'll talk about me. I wear a watch, and millennials don't wear watches. And it's a bit, and it happened on the beach. We were sitting there, and literally, I was I turned to somebody who was wearing a Whoop, who's wearing that the Whoop. And this happened on the beach. it wasn't, I mean, I cleaned it up and made the whole story out of it and made it me being a non-millennial and my husband being, but I turned to my friend and I go to him, what time is it? Figuring he's wearing this thing on his wrist. It must tell you the time. And he said, it doesn't tell you the time. I go, what does it do? He goes, it tells you how you're doing. So then I stopped. I realized how ridiculous. And I said to him, well, I wear a gold Rolex and it tells me that I'm doing good. And so the bit came right there.
Right.
So that's how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then on stage, I made it about my husband and me having age gap, cute things.
Right.
And I made the conversation with me and him. Comedy, as you know, evolved from two guys walking to a bar, one says to the other. Now it's they need to be, he's this old, his husband's that old, they have that it has to be so personal. And so that's how like a bit came like that.
Again, I won't give it away, but your stuff about age gaps in your show is really, really funny. And the stuff about Leo is really funny. Your building, your landlord, all that stuff is just so funny. And so now you're on tour and traveling the U.S., the great old U.S. of A. You're going to be at the Beacon Theater in December. Is that the last show?
So funny, today, the second show at the Beacon went on. The December 19th show sold out. Mm-hmm. December 18th show just went on sale today, and the tickets are moving very, very fast.
I know. I want to go. I want to be there.
Yes. And just contact Leo. He'll get you in. But before that, we have the summer series. Thank God, I have to plug in. They're all sold out almost. And so there's West Hampton. We have the Brigada. I'm doing for the first time in Atlantic City. I have some new markets. I'm trying. Not trying. We're doing. The shows are booked. It's not trying. Trying is looking for a theater. I am doing Nashville and I'm doing Raleigh, North Carolina. Trying to feel those markets out. Mm-hmm. Denver, we have coming on. We have a lot of European. We sold out the Palladium.
Wow.
In a few days, which was amazing. So we couldn't find another show around that date, but we'll in February go back and do another Palladium. And that tour is called Pause for Laughter. Mm-hmm. Because, ever since the war broke out in Israel, and we were there when the war broke out. We were in Israel when the bombs started landing and all that. And we had to fly. So the war broke out Saturday. We flew Saturday. We were the last flight out of Israel into France. I had a show in Paris. And we did shows right away on Monday to an audience that's watching the war on their phone. And then the lights go off and then the curtain goes up and here's Modi, which is literally the name of my podcast because of the same reason. Mm-hmm. My podcast is called And Here's Modi because I used to do, and my main bread and butter was doing fundraisers and galas. And they'd be showing a movie about some horrific event or some disease, and then they go, and here's Modi.
Right. So your stuff about galas and co-chairs and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh my God! So the woman from Israel who comes to the States to speak, one of the funniest bits I've ever heard. So when you are picking a place to tour, you know how like when you watch a crime show and it's like the detectives they're trying to figure shit out. So there's a big pegboard and they're like putting things. Like, are you standing in front of a board going like, where are the Jews? Where are the Jews? We got to book a city where the Jews are. Like, how much of that fact?
So there's the obvious. Listen, there's the obvious. In New York City, we're doing 2 shows at the Beacon. I forgot the name of the new theater we'll be working at.
They have Jews do they have Jews on the Upper West Side, by the way?
Yes, a lot. And then the ones in New Jersey and that little area, they show up there too. But because we knew we were doing the Beacon, we did other shows in Terrytown and in Montclair, New Jersey.
Oh, a lot of Jews there.
Yeah. Oh my God. And they're just, I don't know if they would have driven into the city for a Modi show. So we did that. So I am blessed with a manager, a husband, producer who does all of that with UTA, Michael Grinspan. And they're literally, just like you said, it's like a crime scene, and where can we pick up? So then he'll be like, but on the way there, there's a place called Nashville. And from what I understand, 17 Jews live there. And you should pick that up. And then we go there, and sometimes we're blown away. Milwaukee.
Did you sell out? Now, do you pick a venue that only seats 17 when you do Nashville?
No. The way his strategy is, he'll feel it out. We'll do a 500 room. If it sells out, we make sure there's room to add. And the next time you go back, we did 3 shows there to do 1,500. Or London, we did a theater of 500, and we just kept selling and selling and selling and selling it out. So we're now doing 2 Palladium shows, and so there's this strategy. Luckily, I'm not, that's show business. That's the business part of show.
Leo.
Obviously, and Leo, thank God, travels with me. So you can't sell him on an Albany show. They'll be like, no, we're not going to Albany. Because he's on the flight with me.
I got a great marketing idea for you. So whenever you go into a city, you should do like the mitzvah truck,
Yes.
Just drive around the whole town, the whole city. Like, gotta go to Matty Rosenfeld's show tonight at the Beacon. Like, just do that, right?
I wanted to do a show where I travel in the midst of the tank to go to all over all over the place. But listen, if you have a 4 seasons and an equinox in your city, I will give you a chance. If there's a 4 seasons or Ritz-Carlton, and let me tell you, I did the Kennedy Center and the Ritz-Carlton and the Equinox are in the same building.
Oh my God. And so a theater was in that building too? You didn't have to leave?
No, we did the Kennedy Center, which is around the corner, which is great.
Yeah, they got some Jews in DC, I hear. There's some of us
there.
They
came, yeah.
We're everywhere. It's just a matter of how many. How many?
Everywhere.
Can you imagine being like the only Jew in a town? Can you imagine what that feels like?
It's the only one that people know he's Jewish. The other ones are there too. Well, my grandmother's Jewish. My mom's mom is Jewish. I think I'm Jewish. I go, yes, you are. You are. Like, yeah, your mother's Jewish. Your mom's Jewish. Yes, you would be on the train with all of us. You are Jewish.
All right, Modi, before we go, tell us about your social media, where people can find you, all that good stuff.
I am going to tell you that I am on the main one, ModiLive.com. Modi, like the president of India, ModiLive, live.com. That brings you to all the shows. And I always say, be the friend that brings the friends to the comedy show. Don't just buy a ticket for you and your spouse or your significant other or whoever the hell you're going with. Get 6 tickets, get 8 tickets. By the time the show comes, people will be looking for you. And you'll be a hero, and it's a mitzvah. That's a real, you creating laughter with your friends.
We're back to the mitzvah tank again.
Yeah, no, when you go out with your friends, you're hoping it's going to be a fun night. You go to dinner, and the food is good, the comedy. This is good. This you go to a comedy show, you know it's going to be good. And Instagram, Modi_live, and on YouTube, listen to this. Those of you who are tech savvy, help your grandparents or parents that don't know how to set up YouTube. Or it's also on Amazon Prime. Know your audience, watch it, enjoy it. It's good fun. And then that's it. There's a tour, and there's dates everywhere, and the Beacon, and the Palladium, and the Zurich, and Tel Aviv, and Haifa, and everywhere. What a fun podcast! Is this a podcast, or what is this?
That's a good question. I'm trying to figure it out. No, it's a podcast.
The podcast.
Yes.
What a fun one this was.
Yeah.
And those of you who can't see, he has gorgeous full head of hair. He's in the gay world, you would be called a silver daddy.
I'm not going to tell you how or why, but I've been called that. I actually have a friend who calls me that.
Actually, a silver daddy with his own back room.
Look at that. Comedy callback. We opened and closed with the back room. There you go. Exactly. You are good. I told you are good at what you do.
Thank you very, very much.
Modi, this was great. I had so much fun. You'll have to come back again. And
absolutely.
And good luck with the tour.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Matty Rosenberg. And co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander. And our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.